Welcome back, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Andrea Myers, bringing you your daily hail forecast, sponsored as always by C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor, and Atlas. And they're there for you in the description to this video, so go ahead and check them out. Today, we've got a lot of info about Idalia as it's heading towards Florida. It's making its way out of the Caribbean into the Gulf, and it is barreling towards the Florida Peninsula. So we'll talk about it here, about watches and warnings, as well as about the different cities in the under fire, potentially for Idalia's impacts, and then, getting into more of the specifics on landfall as well. We're talking storm surge, all the works here. So getting into it in a second. But before we start our hurricane coverage here, check us out at the Beacon Golf Tournament. This is going to be this Thursday in Oklahoma City. So if you guys are down along the I-35 corridor, come see us. Frank is going to be there golfing, and you'll also be near the Hail Palace. So feel free to drop by and say hello. Should be a lot of fun. Now getting into today, totally clear and dry across most of the U.S. We do have a small hail risk up here near Idaho, near Washington, near Oregon. Going to be very scattered today, and it's just going to be mostly quarters, if any. The bulk of today's weather is coming from the tropics. Here's Hurricane Franklin, still steaming away, still a beautiful storm here with that symmetry, the eye, it just looks perfect, and it's not really affecting too much land, so you love to see that. But once we move down towards the Gulf, this is where Hurricane Idalia is developing and heading up towards the Florida Peninsula, starting to get itself together here. You can see where it's trying to form that eye. A lot of rain on the right side of that storm as it heads up towards Florida today. So, going to talk about that here, but again, it's really just mostly cool and dry across the northern half of the U.S. and a little bit warmer once we move down towards Texas, 93 in Houston, 85 down in Atlanta in the southeast. So again, picking up some temperatures there along the very far southern part of the U.S. So for our watches and warnings in effect, it's going to be a good chunk of Florida that's under these watches and warnings. So got a hurricane warning in effect from pretty much Tallahassee down into Tampa. So yes, if you guys are in the Tampa metro, we are watching very closely. It's going to depend on if Idalia stays true to its track, threading the needle just between those two cities, or if it can potentially wobble a little bit, then Tampa or Tallahassee could be in a little bit more trouble. So hurricane warning for you guys, tropical storm warning out to the east through Jacksonville, Savannah, and then we got a couple of tropical storm watches once you get further on the outskirts of the track. So there's Franklin, again, looking great out in the Atlantic, and Idalia, again, wouldn't be surprised if we see an eye starting to open up on our infrared here in a little bit, but right now it's starting to gather itself together, looking much more organized than it did yesterday. So there it goes up towards Florida into today. So we'll start to see those impacts into this afternoon and evening. There we are by 9 p.m. with Tampa, as well as a lot of the 75 corridor here, starting to see the outer bands of this storm moving up and overland. So those could potentially bring some scattered tornadoes, as well as some winds that are starting to pick up, moving towards the severe thresholds as Idalia continues to strengthen. We got a ton of warm water right off the coast of Florida, so unfortunately that does mean that it'll fuel the storm a little bit as it's tracking up that way. So watching out for that. But again, these outer bands moving through by around 9 p.m. tonight, and then continuing up north and east, potentially moving over the Florida Big Bend area here, Tallahassee as well, and a ton of rain on the north side of that storm through tomorrow. So there it goes up to the north, expected to potentially make landfall tomorrow morning around Wednesday at 8 a.m. as a Category 3 storm. You can see that quick intensification once it pops over into those very warm waters, and not a lot of shear out ahead of it for the upcoming hours. So not battling a ton until it gets over land. So we'll see that intensification, potentially up to 125 mile an hour gusts on this storm as it moves up and over land. Now it's over severe Savannah by Wednesday evening as a tropical storm, and bringing those 65-mile-an-hour gusts, dropping down in intensity, but those are still severe gusts, can potentially blow some stuff around and get your attention as it continues out that way. So if you guys are anywhere in that cone, the cone is just potentially where the eye could track. You're going to put the center of it there, but it could potentially wobble anywhere in between that cone. So if you guys are in the cone of uncertainty, as we call it, stay tuned to Hurricane Idalia information as it comes at you. But in terms of 40-mile-an-hour winds, these are your tropical storm force winds, and who could see potentially tropical storm force winds. So a lot of the central and western Florida peninsula getting hit with tropical storm force winds at least by Wednesday morning, early. So again, that's going to be with those outer bands. Then as that storm continues to lift up and over, now if you're between Tampa, Gainesville, Cedar Key, Clearwater, you got a really solid chance of seeing at least 40-mile-an-hour winds and likely higher with the center of that storm as it lifts up and over Florida. Tallahassee, 50% chance for you guys. Jacksonville starting to lower down a little bit, hasn't quite reached you yet, but there you go into your Thursday as that makes its way up and over and then back into the Atlantic, kind of following back towards Franklin there into your Thursday. So there's your track there. Again, if you guys are pretty much anywhere from Macon, Georgia, all the way into Orlando, Florida, that whole corridor has a chance to see tropical storm force winds into the next couple of days with this storm. So in terms of severe winds, 60-mile-an-hour plus, it's still going to be that whole area here, and especially up near, again, that Big Bend, Florida area where it's expected to currently make landfall, tracking up that way. That's where we could get those triple-digit wind speeds with that eye wall. So if you guys are from Tallahassee to Jacksonville, down very far south in Florida, all the way up to Savannah, you got a chance to see at least 60-mile-an-hour gusts with this storm. And again, the highest winds are going to be in that bright blue corridor, potential to see over 100-mile-an-hour gusts. Tallahassee and Tampa, got a high chance to start seeing those severe winds tonight. And then it's going to last through Wednesday morning with those severe gusts. Jacksonville starting to taper off a little bit, moderate chance for you guys into today through tonight. So again, this is now through 7 a.m. tomorrow. Landfall is expected around 8 a.m. And again, that's when you're going to start to see these really high winds picking up just south of Tallahassee. And again, if this wobbles any, that could really impact the wind speeds in Tallahassee or in Tampa. So we got to stay really tuned in to where this storm is continuing to track. It's lifted just a little bit to the west since yesterday, and we'll see if it continues off to that track. So for tornadoes as well, again, it's going to be with the outer bands of that storm that have the potential to get rotating. Tampa, you guys have the highest chance of the area to see those tornadoes into today and tonight, but that's still only a moderate. It's going to be really that moderate risk from about Cedar Key area southward, Gainesville as well, and then low chance for Tallahassee and Jacksonville for today. Then into tomorrow, it's going to continue to lift up that way through Georgia and then through South Carolina. It's going to lose some steam as it tracks over land, as it's expected to, but still very high winds, tornado potential, lots of rain for you guys. So for those wind gusts into tomorrow, expecting to see at least 60 mile an hour and could potentially still get those residuals 70 plus out towards Savannah, and we'll update you guys. And again, remember, landfall is going to be right on the threshold of our day 1 and day 2 forecast. It's going to be around 8 a.m., so those 100 mile an hour gusts are going to be in that corridor and then starting to taper off once it lifts over land. So Jacksonville all the way into Wilmington, got a moderate chance of seeing severe winds with that storm tracking through. And then if you're more on the north end of the storm, less of a wind threat, more of a heavy rain threat for you guys, and we'll get to that in a second. But for tornadoes, it's going to be pretty much just right along that track of Idalia, expected to move over Florida back into the Atlantic, and then the same with wind. Moderate chance is going to be along the south end of that storm for tornadoes as well. Lower end chance for Columbia, Tallahassee, just south of the Warner Robins and Macon area in Georgia, as well as the central Florida peninsula. Lower end chance for you guys for those tornadoes. So now let's get into rainfall, because again, it's going to be high winds to the south of storm and heavy rain to the north. So for our 72-hour totals, here we are by Wednesday afternoon, so tomorrow at noon. Tallahassee already just shy of potentially 5 inches of rain on this model. So again, it's just going to be dumping water if you guys are on the north end of Idalia. So then moving into Thursday morning, so now we're at midnight on Thursday, just a 12-hour time span, and we're still seeing a ton of rain being dumped along the north end of that storm. Augusta now just shy of 5 inches, Tallahassee over 5 inches possible, and then, you know, an inch or two if you guys are around the eye or just south of that into your Friday. So watching that whole corridor, flash flooding will be a concern for you guys, as well as still some gusty winds, but the south end of that storm is really going to be packing a punch into today through Friday. So in terms of storm surge, completely different story. Storm surge is different than the flash flooding. If you guys are new to hurricanes, storm surge is just what that storm is pulling up onto land versus, you know, what it's raining down onto land. So that wind is going to pull all of that water up on shore here, and potential to see over 9 feet of storm surge along the Big Bend, Florida coastline. And then if you're further inland, then it's just, you know, more of a rain risk. But if you guys are right along that coastline, Cedar Key area, Steinhatchee area, basically right between the Tallahassee and the Tampa area, just along the coast, is where we're going to see super high storm surge possible with those very high winds. And then the Tampa Bay. There have already been a lot of eyes on Tampa into today through yesterday, and there's still potential to see very high storm surge values through here, 3 to 6 feet, potentially even higher if you're just right along the coast. So take note of that. If you guys are in Tampa, you should be south of the storm, but it's still going to be pulling all that water up towards the Clearwater area, St. Petersburg, into the bay itself, so potential to see some flooding through there from storm surge as well. Now getting into your city impacts for Tampa proper. All right, so you guys, again, should just be to the north or to the south of that storm right now, but if it shifts, then it's a very different story. At this current track, a tornado or two is possible with those outer bands. Storm surge, we just took a look, 3 to 7 feet of surge in the bay itself, as well as just along Clearwater, like the Clearwater Beach area. Flooding, could get tons of rain, 3 to 6 inches possible, and then you still have those 60-mile-an-hour plus gusts to work with, blowing some stuff around. Got lots of rain, lots of water, lots of wind for you guys in Tampa, but currently those conditions, the worst of it should be hitting just to your north, which, speaking of which, if you guys are in any of the coastal cities along this Big Bend area, again, that's going to be like Cedar Key, Steinhatchee, anywhere in between Tallahassee and Tampa, that's where landfall is currently expected. So you still got a couple of tornadoes possible, and that's going to be pretty much the whole region here. But now storm surge is up to 9+ feet, so could possibly see pretty significant storm surge with this storm, as well as 6 to 10 inches of rain, and that's going to be possible by, you know, Wednesday morning. So, or by Thursday morning, sorry, for that flooding. And then wind damage is going to be your main threat as that storm's eye wall potentially moves over you guys. Gusts up to 115 miles an hour currently with that storm as it really just ramps up, and it's going to depend too on how much time it takes in the Gulf. If it can really get going, that's going to impact very high winds as they move inland. So at least 115 mile an hour gusts tracking over the Big Bend area of Florida, and again, landfall is expected around Wednesday at 8 a.m. So getting into like Tampa, if you guys are in Gainesville, Tallahassee, some of the non-landfalling areas, this is your chance of getting those 40-mile-an-hour winds, and this is your timeline, all right? So if you're in Tampa, should start to see a good chance of seeing at least 40-mile-an-hour winds by around Wednesday afternoon, pretty much around the time of landfall. 8 a.m. to noon is when you should be getting the best chance of seeing those high winds. Same with Gainesville, shifted a little bit later for you guys. So Wednesday afternoon to early evening is when those high winds are hitting. And then into Wednesday night for Jacksonville, for Savannah, Thursday morning into Thursday night. A little bit less of a chance to see tropical storm force winds, but still a solid chance. So likely to see at least 40-mile-an-hour gusts over Savannah. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but same with Tallahassee into Wednesday and Thursday. Could potentially be seeing some pretty high winds with Idalia as it tracks over. So then last but not least, there's more. So we got one tropical disturbance tracking off the west coast of Africa. It's about to make its way off into the clear, and you can kind of see where it's trying to organize there. 20% chance of development over the next 2 days and 50 over the next 5. And then this one's got 100% chance of development because it has already developed into a tropical depression. Just hasn't updated on our system here, but you can see that nice rotation on that storm. So this could potentially be our next named system after Idalia, and we'll keep you guys updated with everything. So we'll be on our stories tonight talking to you guys about what landfall is looking like. If anything shifts or changes, we'll let you guys know. Go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can hit See First on Facebook so you never miss a live video, and smash that subscribe button everywhere else. And again, we'll be posting mostly on our Instagram stories and our Facebook stories, so that's a good spot to go for those resources. And then if you want to get in contact with us, you can go ahead and scan the QR code up above me or click the link in our description to get access to our severe weather products, or give us a call at 855-334-4245. Email us at info@hailtrace.com or check out hailtrace.com for more details. If you guys are anywhere in or around the southeast or Florida into today through tomorrow, stay safe, stay tuned to your weather, and again, we'll be monitoring everything for you as it comes at us. But for now, I'm meteorologist Andrea Myers. Thanks for watching.